You are listening to another episode of the Renegade Podcast. I've interviewed with this gentleman named Boonanman. He's a movie reviewer, TV reviewer, music reviewer, all those things in between. We interacted on Twitter a little bit, and I proposed him to do an interview. He said yes, and now here it is. I'm so excited for this. It's gonna be really, really interesting. So, I'm gonna send a link over to him and see what happens. This is going to be a lot of fun, for sure. This is going to be a lot of fun, and it's going to be very, very interesting. So, yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. Absolutely, it's going to be a lot of fun. And I'm excited. I'm very, very excited. I mean, last couple months for Renegade Podcast has been really interesting because I'm juggling this and high school and all that stuff. Hello.
Hello.
Hey, man. The GOAT is in the building, bro. It's an honor to have you on here, man.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, man. So, would you mind if you want to sort of introduce yourself to the audience who may not know who you are?
Yeah, that's fine. My handle is Boonanman.
Yeah.
I make reviews for movies on my YouTube channel.
Yeah.
So I'm a big Star Wars fan.
Yeah.
And recently made a video on that, but that's about it about me. I just started talking about movies, writing essays.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to sort of talk about that name, Boonanman. That's a very interesting name because you see a lot of movie reviewer channels. They sort of try to be sort of specific and sort of artsy, but you sort of just picked a name that sounds sort of like a random name, type of thing.
Yeah, so the name is it was my gamer tag I came up with when I was 10 years old.
Whoa.
And I had a YouTube channel around that time. I was around 10, 11 years old.
Yeah.
And I would just upload gaming videos.
Oh.
And slowly over time, I just kind of changed. I did gaming videos. I did at the time I was also a big Sonic the Hedgehog fan. So I did Sonic theories and stuff, and I just kind of slowly morphed the content over time until eventually I started writing stuff more.
Okay.
Right, and then turned into essay content, and I just started writing essays about stuff I was interested in, and then that eventually became movies. And so that's how I ended up where I'm at now. But I thought about changing it when my first video kind of blew up, which was a video on the movie Whiplash back in September.
Yeah.
I thought about changing it to something, like you said, more traditional, I don't know, something with film or whatever.
Yeah.
But I'm not the kind of person where I stay with one thing for a super long time.
Yeah.
So I'm not 100% convinced that just this video essays on movies and stuff is what I'm always going to do.
Okay.
So I think just having a very general name kind of keeps me open to new stuff.
Okay. It's very interesting you say that because my introduction to your channel was very funny because I remember it was a month ago, right? I started to watch Shawshank Redemption with my family, right? I love that movie. That's my brother's favorite movie for life. He always mentions it. He always quotes line from it. And
It's a good movie.
Yeah. And I don't know why. I searched it up right after, right? Before I went to sleep. And I saw this video. And I watched it. And I saw your video essay of it. And I came across it. I watched it. And I'm like, whoa. This guy knows what he's talking about. Right? And I just start digging into your channel. And I'm like, man, we on that same type of thinking, man. And it was sort of kind of like a eureka moment for me. Right?
Yeah.
So, again, I want to sort of talk about your latest video, right? Star Wars video. That felt sort of more personal than the other ones. Not that the other ones didn't have your sort of anecdotes, but this one felt like it came from the heart and stuff. Can you sort of take me through that?
So I think that's my best video, and it was also the easiest video for me to make, because a lot of times with these videos, I've never seen the movie. I said it's my Star Wars video, but I've never seen the movie until it was suggested. Yeah. And then I basically have to become an expert on this movie that's been out for 30 years in a week. And so there's not much room for me to, there's no personal anecdotes I can say or anything because I don't know the movie like that. I'm learning about it.
Yeah.
and I'm dissecting the themes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
With Star Wars videos, like I have my personal history, I have my own opinions about a lot of things, and
Yeah.
it's not that I don't have opinions on the other movies, but they are generally just widely regarded as very good movies.
Yeah.
So my opinion is basically they're just good because they are. I don't really have much else to say in terms of opinions. So I just go into like themes and stuff.
Yeah.
But Star Wars, I'm very opinionated with that series, so
Yeah.
that was a lot more personal for me.
Okay. So was that video like an idea that you always wanted to do, or something that was sort of like spur of the moment type of thing?
So yeah, that is something I always wanted to do.
Okay.
Was talk about Star Wars, like before everything, before my videos started actually getting views and all that. I always wanted to make some Star Wars videos, but what held me back was like I wanted to do them justice. I wanted to actually make good videos about it. And I think I've just gotten better and better as I've been doing it, and I felt like I was at a point where I could actually make the video I envisioned in my head.
Yeah.
And I think I did. I'm very proud of that video, and I think I made it at a good time.
Yeah, for sure. You mentioned that you were like making gaming videos back in the day. Like, what type of video games were you into back then, and are you still into them now?
Admittedly, I don't really play video games as much anymore.
Okay.
But I'm big into. I don't know if you looked at my channel banner, but there's like, I think I have like a Pokemon on there. Whatever. So I play a lot of Nintendo stuff. I play a lot of Mario, and Smash Bros was a big. That was a big one I made videos on. Was Super Smash Bros Ultimate and Zelda Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. Yeah. So a lot of Nintendo stuff. But aside from that, like, I didn't really play much. Like now, I think everyone's into Marvel Rivals. Yeah. I'm a big Marvel fan. Yeah. So I'm playing that game a ton. Okay. But aside from that, I don't really play video games anymore.
It's interesting you mentioned Marvel because did you watch Thunderbolts?
I did.
Oh, did you like it?
I watched it twice in theaters already. Oh. It's really good. I love Thunderbolts. And
that's the thing same here, bro. Same here, man. That movie is so dope.
I would love to talk about like Marvel movies on my channel.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's really something that I have the audience for. Like, I made that one Superman video. Yeah. Like, I don't even think it has 1,000 views. Like, it did not do well at all. And I think a big reason for that is a lot of the people that watch my videos, and this is like no offense to them or anything, it's just a lot of people that watch my videos they're more critical of film. Like, it's a big hobby of theirs to, so they like good movies. They like movies like Shawshank and Fight Club and stuff like that. Yeah. And for me, I just like movies. I don't know. I just watch them and I enjoy them. Yeah. And I can understand that a movie like Shawshank is so much deeper and has so much more going on. Yeah. But if I'm going to sit down and watch a movie, I might put on Iron Man or Spider-Man 3 or something. I don't know. It's fun. They're fun movies. I recognize they're not as good, but they're more fun for me.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that because it sort of goes back to sort of debate that Scorsese was talking about, like 2019, right? And he sort of talked about like Marvel movies or like sort of roller coaster rides or whatever. And I feel like people misunderstood what he said. He wasn't saying those movies were trash because they weren't his movies. He just said they're just a different type of expression film, right? Yeah. So
they're not trying to be. That's what I've tried to. That's why I don't like number rankings. Like I don't, because my videos are kind of half reviews. Yeah. And I don't do number rankings because I don't like the idea of them. Like for instance, for me, Thunderbolts is like a 10 out of 10 movie, but it's not as good as a movie like Fight Club or Shawshank. Yeah. Those are also 10 out of 10 movies, but they're on different scales. Yeah. Thunderbolts, for what it's trying to be, it did what it wanted to do perfectly. Yeah.
It's sort of like
did what it wanted to do perfectly too. Yeah. But it was aiming a lot higher. It was aiming for something way more difficult. Yeah. So it's a better movie, So I don't know.
It's interesting you say that because it kind of like. Do you watch Needle Drop?
Do you watch what?
The Needle Drop, the music reviewer.
No, I don't.
Okay, but do you listen to music reviewers? Do you even follow them? Enemy Junction.
Oh, you talking about Fantano?
Yeah.
Yeah. I watched like a couple of his videos. I don't watch them very often, but
all right. So right, a lot of his sort of controversial like ratings, like he gave Lil Pump like his first mixtape like a 7 out of 10, and he gave My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy a 6 out of 10 back in the day. A lot of people's like, "What are you talking about?" Yada yada yada. But the thing is, like, he is judging it on what the artist is capable of. He's not judging it versus each other, right?
That's
like
interesting.
I remember,
I actually referenced my Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy 6 out of 10 in one of my older videos. I think it still might be up. It was on a video about The Greatest Showman. I referenced that because that was insane. But I didn't think about it that way. That's the way he grades. That's interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting. That's what I figured out very quickly. Because there was this one review you did about Lana Del Rey. Do you listen to Lana Del Rey?
No, I don't.
Okay, so he did this review on her. It's like Ultraviolence. Great album, by the way. And he gave it like a 2 out of 10. I was very puzzled until I realized that he expects more out of Lana than I think most people expect at the time. And by the time like her magnum opus, like Norman Rockwell, came out in 2019, he gave it a 9. He said, "This is what I've been waiting for this whole time." Right? It's fully realized.
Yeah.
Right? So, but again, like that's what this whole thing about Stan Wars is, that a lot of like the objectivity gets thrown out of the window just for like vibes and stuff. It's kind of difficult to cipher through that.
Yeah, that's interesting. I've never heard any Lana Del Rey, so
yeah,
I don't know how that works, but that's cool.
Yeah. So, how did you get into Marvel actually? Because you mentioned that.
So I think it started with probably just the first Iron Man, like it came out, and then my dad was a huge fan of just like the whole phase of one of the MCU. He's not really into it now, but like the Iron Man and Iron Man 2 into Thor and Captain America and Avengers and all that.
Yeah,
was big into that. So those movies were just on repeat in my house, and so I got big into it there. And then at that time, there's also the cartoons coming out.
Yeah.
And then from there, I just started reading comics, and so I got just roped into the whole thing. But it did start with those first few MCU movies.
Yeah. There was a scene in Iron Man 1 I don't think people talk about enough, and it's not it's not his reveal, but it's the very first scene where he's in a casino, right? He's rolling dice. You remember that, right?
Yep.
And just the sheer like pompous and arrogance, and you contrast that to like, let's say, an Endgame where he's weakened to like brittle. And you see that this is the same person, but like they both experience like sort of opposite ends of the spectrum in terms of just like being in person, right? And I don't think people sort of view Marvel, the MCU, that way. And sort of these are arcs that are about people, not necessarily heroes, right?
Yeah.
Right? And I think a lot of sort of the recent critiques of the MCU, you must have saw them, right? From like Neurotic and Critical Drinkler and Mowler and whatever. They seem to misunderstand the point of that. Or they intentionally misunderstand. I don't know. But a lot of the critiques are not really good critiques. Like, it's one thing to like not like a movie. But if you're going into the mindset of hate watching a movie, then you might as well just not be watching anything. Because that's a waste of time.
I agree. Yeah. Like, I brought it up at the end of my Star Wars video about just how negative like film criticism is, and how I just don't really like doing that. I just kind of try and keep it as positive as possible.
Yeah.
If I don't like a movie, I'd rather just not talk about it.
Yeah.
And by that same metric, I don't really watch film critiques and stuff on YouTube. Like nowadays on YouTube, I'm watching a lot of like gaming stuff, because I kind of replaced the time I would usually spend playing video games.
Yeah.
With like watching people talk about video games, and the time I used to spend watching video essays and reviews and stuff, I just spend making video essays and reviews. Yeah. So I don't really absorb that kind of content as much anymore.
Okay, that's a healthy way actually, because you don't understand how easily people get manipulated into disliking something even though they may have not watched it. It's so funny, right? Because did you watch The Electric Slate?
No.
Right. Okay, I watched it, right? Because I had a Netflix account and everything, right? And I watched it, right? And I remember when the first trailers came out. And look, granted, it's not a good movie. It's not. I'm the first one to say that. But there are redeeming qualities of that movie, right? And seeing all the reviews just bash on, like, Millie Bobby Brown, and just it came across as, like, character assassination, which I hate, right? There's certain actors I don't love, but I'm not going to start making stuff up just to dislike them more. Like, talk about what they're doing. Don't talk about things that aren't, like, acting and stuff.
Man, I didn't even hear this. I just looked it up. I've never even heard of this movie.
Yeah.
Chris Pratt, and it's done by the Russo brothers. That's crazy. I don't know how I didn't hear about this.
Yeah.
Let's check that out. It has horrible reviews.
Yeah.
A super high budget. Wow, a $320 million budget. Oh my god.
That's crazy, yeah.
For a Netflix movie? Oh my god. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna check that out. And definitely not gonna make a video on it. That's interesting.
Yeah. One thing I like about you, bro, is that you appreciate things. You don't just, like, tear something down. Now, this isn't to say criticism isn't welcome. I think it's healthy. But, like, there's a difference between constructive criticism for improvement and just then character assassination. Which I don't think the internet, like, understands the barrier. They seem to confuse the two, which just pisses me off even more. Yeah,
that makes me upset when people... Like, when... I think when... I mean, I might be getting this wrong, but I think what you're saying is, like, let's say someone makes something that's not very good.
Yeah.
And instead of talking about the thing they made, they talk about the person.
Yes.
And that's what you're talking about?
Yes.
Okay, I agree. That's something that happens all the time.
Yes.
It's insane. I mean, even think like even like sports, where a player has a bad game and they don't even really go into the game as much. They go into like the mentality of the player and like
it's
how they're busy doing this and that, and they're not really locked in and all that. And it's like that's not what happened. Like you need to critique what happened, not the person. The person is not connected to that. And it's also the separated art from artist. Nobody can do that nowadays.
Yeah.
Because when something's bad, they hate on the person instead of the thing. And when something's good, if that person has done anything wrong in their past, they'll still find a way to hate on the person and ignore the thing they made.
Yeah. That's a brilliant point. I mean, because you mentioned sports. I mean, look at because I remember did you watch the NBA?
I do. Yeah, I'm a huge NBA fan.
What's your favorite team?
Celtics.
Okay, so I'm gonna bring that up.
It's been a rough week.
Jason Tatum, right? He tore his Achilles, right? And seeing people like I swear to you, after the first 2 games, I know he was not playing well, but like seeing people try to rewrite his career off 2 games is the most like ludicrous thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yep. Yeah, no, Jason Tatum is. I mean, he's a dog, man. I really hope he comes back, and he's young, so he probably will come back and be even better.
Yeah.
But I'm really hoping that he just recovers quickly and that the Celtics don't trade him, honestly, because that's a big thing right now. Is they need to make a decision this offseason about whether they're going to trade a bunch of role players to save cap space, or whether they're going to trade Brown, or whether they're going to trade Tatum.
Yeah.
And Tatum's Achilles injury makes it a much easier business decision.
Yeah.
And I just hope that they don't do that, because I think that would be stupid business-wise and just
morale.
Really messed up. Yeah, morale too.
Yeah.
So I just think,
it's also another thing. I look at, like, again, you watch the NFL?
Not as much as basketball, but yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, look at, like, the last Super Bowl, for example, right? Mahomes, like, he didn't play well at all, especially in the first half. And seeing people try to rewrite his career, and a guy who somehow, like, you don't fall into 5 Super Bowls in 7 years.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah,
you don't fall into 7 straight conference finals appearances starting out a career. You don't just fall into that, right? Like, I would rather, like, appreciate someone than, but it takes more energy to do that than just to hate on someone. Like, it's very easy to hate on something while you don't frankly understand what you're hating on. It's just blind hate, which does not make any sense to me.
You see a lot of times it's new fans, people who have no context for the background behind something. You see a lot of, like, even like LeBron haters now. They watch this one series he just had and they're like, oh wow, this guy's trash. Or even like Curry getting injured and all that. And they just they ignore the things that happened in the 2010s, because a lot of times they just weren't there for that.
Yeah, they weren't.
They just were not watching. Yeah.
So. And also a lot of content gets thrown out. I mean, I remember when the Raptors won the title, right? And because I'm from Toronto, right? I mentioned that, and it's just seeing the celebration and just the whole. It was so surreal, man. I was watching it on TV back at my old house, and I was just like, it was like out of body experience. And then you go online, and it's just full of like, oh, the Warriors were injured, yada yada yada. I'm like, how could someone think like that? Like,
and that's why I don't use. I tried to avoid any content like that, and then also with like Twitter, for instance.
Yeah.
I have it, but I got notifications off for it. I don't go on it at all. I try and just completely, because Twitter's the main problem. I've noticed like Instagram, YouTube. I think with YouTube specifically, you click on what you want to watch. It doesn't just pop up. So that's a big thing there. And then with Instagram, it's just generally slightly more positive.
Yeah.
Twitter is just a mess. I've never seen a positive opinion on there. You go on there, search up Tatum Achilles or something, and every single one of them is like, thank God. And it's like, well, what do you mean? Like, this is a normal dude, doesn't have any allegations or nothing.
Yeah. He
just hurt himself, and this could be serious. You never know. And thank God he didn't do nothing to you. He did nothing to your team. I don't know. It's crazy.
It is crazy, though. But it sort of speaks to, like, his greatness, that he's been busting all these teams' asses for so long that those fan bases have to hate, right?
Yep.
Right? He sent the Sixers to a rebuild. People forget that, right?
Yeah.
Right, so...
He's a great player.
He is. It's interesting, so what was the movie that you watched when you were younger that inspired you to do video essays in the first place, and why?
So for a long time, I had a private Instagram where I was doing movie reviews just for like my friends and family and stuff.
Yeah.
And that was just reviewing movies I had already enjoyed.
Yeah.
Like DreamWorks, Pixar. Like, I'm like 12 years old this time, so I'm watching a lot of animated movies, like MCU, Star Wars.
Yeah.
And then I think, and it all came kind of full circle this way. The film that kind of opened my eyes to what movies actually could be, like how even like a more grounded story outside of the genres I like could amaze me, was Whiplash.
Yes.
And I watched that. You know Schaefer-Ellis Productions?
Yes, I do.
So he made a passing comment about Whiplash in one of his videos.
Yeah.
And so I was like, all right, I'll check out Whiplash. And so I watched it, and I was amazed by it.
Yes.
And then just last September, it was years later now, just last September I made a video on it, and that's what kind of kick-started everything. So I think I would say probably Whiplash is what got me into it, even though it wasn't my first video or even the first review I had made. To me, that was the one where I was like, okay, wait, this is actually... Like, I have something to say about this movie, a lot of people around me had not seen it, and I was like, I got to talk about this movie. That was the one where I was like, I have to say something about it, so.
All right, so how do you sort of feel when your videos do get viral? Because, I mean, your most viewed video is, I think, the Whiplash one, right?
No, it's Good Will Hunting.
Good Will Hunting, right? So, because obviously you didn't think when you were making that video that it's going to reach the heights that it did. Like, how do you process that? Sort of when it happens.
See, that's an interesting question, because I can kind of gauge when a video is going to do well and when it's not going to do well.
Yeah.
Like when I put out Whiplash, I was like, I had no audience at the time, but I just had a feeling that it was gonna get.
Yeah.
Like, I even told my sister the day before it came out, I'm like, my goal for this video is for it to get 80,000 views. I want it to blow up, get 80,000 views, and start a conversation, because I had a lot of takes in that could have been a little more controversial.
Yeah. That
just, kind of disagreed with the consensus about the film.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I want it to just blow up and turn into a conversation.
Yeah.
And it did. And then from there, I kind of could gauge with each video came out. I was like, this video's got potential, Yeah. I think the one video I had wrong was Breakfast Club. I put that video out and it didn't really do anything. I think it has 10,000 views now.
Yeah.
And I expected that one to do a lot better. But when I put out Good Will Hunting, it was one that I had been asked about a ton of times to do. And it was one that even people in my personal life were like, yeah, you need to make a video on this movie. It's really good.
Yeah.
So I don't know, that was the most demanded, in-demand video. So I was like, all right, this is probably going to do really well. 400,000 views is crazy. At the time, my goal was maybe 100,000. Yeah. Where I was like, this could probably do really well. And that was my really well. Yeah. But, it did exceed my expectations. And a big thing with videos doing well, this is going to sound bad, I think, but it's not like I'm not super surprised. I'm not oh my God, this is crazy, and I'm shocked and everything. I'm I don't think my videos are like 400,000 views good, but I do take pride in a lot of time and effort into trying to make them as good as I can. So I feel like I put the work in to get some sort of reward out of it. You know? So I don't know.
That's a great answer, man. That's a great answer because I did an interview with Into the Depths. He's like this Batman horror guy. I don't know if you heard of him or not, but he mentioned that like putting out a YouTube video is kind of like you are doing a presentation in front of 100,000 people, right? And you times that by like 15, right? And you're talking to millions of people, but you don't really know it yet. But when those views start coming in, then it's like a eureka moment. Like, yes, I was talking to that portion of the audience and they received it well, right? It's still sort of like a cycle type of thing.
Yeah, I think also some of it comes with age too. Like if you are an older person, I notice a lot of times like older people will look at my videos and they'll be like, "Oh wow, that's crazy!" Like my Breakfast Club would be like, "Oh wow, that's crazy! That's 10,000 views. That's insane." I'm on the younger side, so for me, I've seen the blown up like TikTok numbers and Instagram numbers, and so I've got kind of like a numbers dysmorphia or something. I think where it's like that's not good. And like I put out a 100,000 view video or something, and I'm like, that's pretty good. 400,000 views. I'm like, that's all right. But like I'm trying to get 1 million, 2 million. Like I'm trying to keep improving the quality until I've put in enough work to earn that level. So I don't know.
I mean, you have like 10,000 subscribers, right? And like, do you feel like you have like a sort of an obligation to them or a burden, or do you don't really think about that in that way?
In a sense, yes, but also no. I feel like I have an obligation to continue making the best videos I can. Yeah. But I don't have an obligation to make the exact kind of videos they may be expecting. Like, because it keeps me obligated to stay on a schedule. So like this is try every 2 weeks is like what I'm trying to do. Getting past copyright makes that really difficult. But in terms of like actually making a video every 2 weeks, I do have a video finished every 2 weeks. Okay. And so that I feel an obligation for. But I also think that, like I mentioned, I'm not the kind of person I really stay on one thing for too long, and I don't know how long I'll be doing just film video essays. I mean, I could totally end up doing that for years to come. But I could also see myself not doing it in a few months, and I switch to something else and try and find success in that. Yeah. So I don't feel like an obligation to like consistently try and do that, but also it's less of an obligation to like when it comes to the type of content I make. It's less of an obligation to the people, and more so just trying to draw in views because like this is a majority of my livelihood at the moment. Like the money I make, a lot of it does come from YouTube. So
do you have another job on the side, or?
I do, I do, but it doesn't even pay me what YouTube pays me, which is crazy. Which I don't make that much off YouTube. I just don't make a lot at my other job either. Oh, okay.
So, I don't know if you want to disclose, because I'm assuming you're American, right?
I am, yeah.
Yeah. So do you live you can tell me what state you live in, right? Are you comfortable with that, or?
I'll just say East Coast. I live on the East Coast.
East Coast, okay. All right.
I did say I'm a Celtics fan, so it's kind of
Massachusetts,
but yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So yeah.
But I was going to ask you about that. How did you become a Boston Celtics fan? Because they have a lot of.
Yeah, there's your answer. I'm from there, so it just kind of happened. I was just born into it.
Okay. Do you ever went to a game?
Not in Boston. Not to a TD game in TD Garden. I've been to a couple different arenas.
Oh, okay. On the topic, what's interesting is that because again, because we mentioned this before, right? A lot about we talk about a lot of the younger generation, right? People younger than us have not really had the context to understand why certain players are ranked where they are, and I think a lot of generations don't understand how good Bill Russell was. They don't understand because I think he's the GOAT, but other people could feel a whole different type of way about that. It doesn't help when Jordan came into the league. They start essentially acting like it was Bird and Magic, and then that was the league. Like, the league started from there. Now, it didn't start, but it started from Mike and Will and Bill, and like it feels like those were like the lost generations in a way, and I find that really interesting.
Yeah, so here's what I would say about like the GOAT debate is my answer to it is who would have the highest potential if they grew up in today's league. Like, let's say there's a kid who's 20 years old right now.
Yeah.
And he grew up during the Steph and the Kobe era and LeBron and Steph era.
Yeah.
And he knew what skills to refine.
Yeah.
Where would they be now? Because I think of like Michael Jordan, for instance, could not shoot the three ball. But like, if he was growing up now, he would have the athleticism and the mid-range game he had.
Yeah.
And he would have been working on that three ball his entire high school, college, and all that. He would have been working on that.
Yeah.
So he would have had a good three ball. And
yeah.
Bill Russell, his level of athleticism, and just like mindfulness defensively and all that,
yeah,
and just his sheer size would have translated insanely well to today's NBA, and also with the trainers that they have now, the technology they have to nurture that kind of athleticism, it would have been incredible.
It would have been
an incredible player if he played now.
Yeah,
if he grew up in because if you just take him from like the '60s and throw him in today's NBA, he'd be lost.
Yeah,
you know, he can't shoot. But if you had him grow up in this era, and you knew what skills to refine, you know, he doesn't need to shoot the three, but like, he can hit a corner three. You know, do better in the post or whatever. Like, I don't know. I think if he grew up in this era, though, he definitely would be an all-time, even higher all-time talent, top 3, top 5 player all-time.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because because you said you don't watch the NFL that much, but I look at like the way that there's a lot of nostalgia bias in the NFL discourse where we just assume that certain guys would just translate. Like, the amount of takes I see, like Dan Marino will throw for 6,000 yards every year, like that's not how it works.
Yeah.
Right? Because you have to throw for that much. The team's not that good. Right? No run game, no defense, right? And we also assume that our generation, the sort of players that are dominant now, would not translate. And I'm like, it's more than likely they would obliterate that era because they have all the knowledge and skill and playbook and stuff.
Simpler back then.
Yeah.
Like, LeBron could just come down the lane and dunk on people every single possession. He can't do that now.
Yeah.
Because they'll clog up the paint. He tries to space up the floor and, keep him honest and all that. But, yeah, if he could just dunk on everybody back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, you know?
Yeah. So, what music do you listen to?
Music? Okay, so this has turned into kind of an interesting little thing that happened in my Whiplash video where I said that I wasn't a big music fan.
Yeah.
Like, I listen to... I read books, and I watch movies and TV shows and stuff.
Yeah.
I play video games, but I don't really listen to music. And I do listen to a little music. I do listen to some stuff that I like, but it's really... I spend very little time listening to music.
Okay.
But... Okay, so this is my reasoning. For me, music is just not stimulated enough on its own. Like, it's just not enough.
Yeah.
Just listening to music. So I need a story. I need something to be going on within the music.
Yeah.
And so for me personally, I'm a big fan of Kendrick Lamar, J. Cole.
Alright.
Rappers like that who like kind of tell stories in their songs and they kind of have ideas. And even like that, when I listen to those artists, I'm not just like, oh yeah, shuffle. No, I like put on
a whole album.
Good Kid, Mad City, or 2014 Forest Hills Drive, which is my favorite album of all time, by the way. 2014 Forest Hills Drive is incredible. I'll put that on, I'll listen to it, and I'll enjoy the story of it, and I kind of treat it as if I'm watching it as a movie, you know?
Yeah.
But that's about it. Like, if the music's got to make me feel something,
then...
and if it can do that, then I'll enjoy it.
You know, that's a fair take. That's a fair take, because, I mean, there's this guy I listen to named, do you listen to Griselda?
No, I've heard of him.
No, you should listen. Because it's actually kind of similar, but, like, it's a little bit more simpler, in a way, right? There's this other guy. Do you listen to Domo Genesis?
No, I never heard of him.
But it seems like he tells his own sort of stories about experiences, and he has, like, I think there's a tape that he did with Evidence. He's like this underground producer. He's kind of like an Alchemist clone, but he's really good.
Yeah, that's things I just don't listen to music very much. So I don't like discover new music, but I'm sure there's a lot out there that I would enjoy.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. What music do you listen to?
Music very much. I don't discover new music, but I'm sure there's a lot out there that I would enjoy. Yeah, for sure. There's a lot out there that I would enjoy. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure.
who's your favorite director and why?
So, man, this is so stupid. But I was gonna say, like, okay, for me, when it comes to film, like I said, I jump from thing to thing. Like, I don't really stay with one interest for too long.
Yeah.
And that line from Fight Club where it's like, you caught me at a very interesting time in my life. You met me at a very interesting time in my life. I feel like that's how it is with my YouTube, where I was kind of new to film when I started making these videos. I'm not super, like, big into it very much. I'm a good writer, I think. I can dissect things in a logical way. But the videos I can make those about so many different kind of things. But when it comes to movies, that's just one of my interests,
Okay.
Honestly, my answer would probably just be George Lucas.
Oh, yeah. That's a good answer.
For the universe he created and stuff. Like, it's incredible.
I've
seen a lot of Scorsese movies since I started.
Yeah.
And he's great.
Yeah.
But even like that, like, I watch a movie like Revenge of the Sith, and I'm like, I don't know, man. It's so beautiful. It's so well shot, And sometimes the blue screen doesn't look great, but it's a beautiful movie still.
It is. Like, it's interesting you mentioned that, because there's this one movie I watched when I was younger, and I'll never forget. It's Tron Legacy, and it's the same thing.
Okay.
It's the awe that I saw. Tron Ares is gonna come out in a couple months, right? So that's really interesting. Did you ever watch Tron Legacy at all?
So I watched Tron Legacy when I was like 6 or 7. So I don't. Wait, no, because it came out in 2007, right?
2010.
That was 2010. Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, so I watched it a couple years after it came out then.
Yeah.
And I was way too young to understand it or anything, so I really don't remember it that well.
Hey, you know what? That's another video that you can make. That you could reintroduce people.
Honestly, for the new Tron coming out, I might just look back at because 2 movies, right? It's Tron and then Tron Legacy.
Yeah.
So I might take a look at those.
Yeah, for sure. Do you have a celebrity crush? Or did you have one when you were younger?
Man, that's an interesting question. I don't right now. I don't really.
All right.
Yeah, I don't think I really had one even when I was younger. I kind of just watch stuff. I don't know.
That's interesting.
Yeah. I think obviously growing up the MCU, you got the typical answer like Scarlett Johansson, Elizabeth Olsen, that one, Felicity Jones.
Yeah.
Felicity Jones in Rogue One. That's it. Yeah, that's the answer. It's Felicity Jones.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So actually, another question. So what's the future of your channel? You mentioned that you're not going to be making videos about movies, but like, do you have a certain type of plan or outlook or something like that about your future channel?
Well, that's the interesting thing is I don't know. It's whatever I kind of decide. I will go over, like, for now I have a plan on what movies I'm going to cover.
Yeah.
So for the month of June, the goal is to put out 3 videos on The Godfather.
Yeah.
The Godfather Part 1, Part 2, and Part 3.
Yeah.
And then beyond that, I'll just see how those videos do and decide on where I want to go from there. That's kind of the way I've been doing it, just kind of playing it by ear and deciding what I want to do. And when it comes to doing other things, a thought I've had a lot is making another channel because the type of content I make would never really change that much. I think the only real skill I have when it comes to making YouTube videos is writing. Like, that's the thing I'm good at. If I do things like playthroughs of video games like that, I'm not working towards my strengths. I wouldn't get any views. Those are not skills that I have.
Yeah.
My skill is writing, and so I should stay in the kind of that group. So if I were to make another channel, I would just change the stuff I write about. Talk about cartoons or anime or whatever, So that would be the goal. But for now, it's just going to be movies on this main channel. If I ever decide to change it, second channel would probably be the answer.
Would you ever do a video on like Teen Titans or something like that?
So the original Teen Titans I watched very little of, and Teen Titans Go I just didn't really like. So, like, even as a kid, it was like Teen Titans Go was on. I was like, okay, yeah, cool. And then Amazing World of Gumball would come on, and I'd be like, oh yeah, this is it. This is peak right here. This is what I want to watch.
Yeah.
So even like Teen Titans, I was never super big into as much.
Okay, because that would be a really interesting video to do, coming from your perspective. Man, that was a very great interview that we had. It was an honor to have you on.
Thanks for having me. It's cool.
Yeah, maybe we can do another one, in the future. I'm always available anytime, you know how it is.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, so last question would be this. What was your favorite album of 2024?
You said my favorite album when?
Of 2024, last year.
2024?
Yeah.
Man. What albums came out in 2024?
Was it GNX or?
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
I wasn't a huge fan of GNX, but it is probably the only album that came out in 2024 that I listened to.
Okay.
So,
all right.
I'll be honest with you, I really don't listen to, especially new music, I don't listen to that much. So,
yeah,
probably GNX.
Okay. Good answer. Man, peace out, man.
All right, peace out.
So that was an interview with Renegade Podcast with Boonanman, and was again a lot to discuss, a lot of discussion, a lot of conversation. Hope you guys enjoyed. See you guys next time.